The hum of my laptop filled the quiet of my dorm room, the soft glow of the screen casting long shadows across the walls. It was late, too late, really, and I should have been asleep. But sleep had been elusive lately, and the internet had become my refuge, a place where I could lose myself in the endless scroll of distractions. The weight of finals was pressing down on me, and the loneliness of the empty room only amplified the noise in my head. I scrolled aimlessly through social media, half-heartedly liking posts and skimming through updates from people I barely knew anymore. A notification pinged, sharp and sudden, cutting through the stillness. I glanced at the screen, my heart skipping a beat when I saw the name. Liam Carter. The name alone was enough to send a shiver down my spine. He wasn't just anyone. He was the Liam Carter, star quarterback, king of the social scene, and, for reasons I could never quite understand, my high school bully. Even now, years later, the sight of his name brought back a flood of memories I thought I'd buried. The way he'd smirked when he walked past me in the hallways, the way his laughter echoed in my ears long after the bell rang, the way he'd made me feel small, insignificant, like I didn't belong in his world. It wasn't the kind of bullying that left bruises or scars. No, Liam's cruelty was subtler, more insidious. The mocking smirks in the hallway, the whispered jokes that always seemed to find their way back to me, the way he'd look right through me like I was invisible. It wasn't physical, but it cut just as deep. And now, years later, here he was, popping up on my screen like a ghost from the past. I hesitated, my cursor hovering over the message. A part of me wanted to ignore it, to shut the laptop and pretend it hadn't happened. But curiosity got the better of me, and I clicked. Hey, it's Liam. Long time no see. I stared at the words, my mind racing. Why was he reaching out? What did he want? Against my better judgment, I typed back, "Hey, yeah, it's been a while." The response came almost immediately, as if he'd been waiting. "How've you been?" I frowned, unsure how to answer. How had I been? It was a loaded question, one I wasn't sure I wanted to unpack with him. But something about the casual tone of his message put me at ease, and I found myself typing before I could overthink it. "I'm good. Just finishing up my degree." "You?" "Same," he replied. "Playing ball at state. Saw you online and thought I'd say hi." The conversation started awkwardly, stilted and unsure, but as the minutes ticked by, the words began to flow. He asked about my classes, my hobbies, my plans for the future. His tone was friendly, even warm, so different from the Liam I remembered. It was disorienting, like seeing a completely different side of someone I thought I knew. Curiosity morphed into intrigue as the days passed, and our conversations continued. He wasn't just the golden boy anymore. He was witty, intelligent, and surprisingly introspective. We talked about everything: our favorite movies, our most embarrassing moments, our deepest fears. Bit by bit, the walls between us crumbled, and I saw a side of him I never knew existed. One night, as we talked about our high school days, I couldn't help but bring up the elephant in the room. "Do you ever think about high school?" I typed, my fingers trembling slightly. There was a pause before he responded. "All the time. I wasn't the best version of myself back then." His honesty caught me off guard. I wasn't sure what I'd expected him to say, but it wasn't that. I hesitated before typing my next question. "Do you regret it?" This time, the pause was longer. I could almost feel him thinking on the other end of the screen. "Every day," he finally replied. "I was an idiot. I didn't know how to deal with my own crap, so I took it out on other people. You didn't deserve that." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I had spent years replaying those moments in my head, wondering what I'd done to make him target me, why I hadn't been strong enough to stand up to him. And now, here he was, admitting that it had never been about me at all. "I didn't know," I typed, my vision blurring with tears. "I thought it was me." "It wasn't," he replied quickly. "It was never you. I was just messed up." I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wanted to tell him how much his words had hurt me, how they'd shaped the way I saw myself for years. But another part of me was afraid to reopen those old wounds, afraid of what it might mean to let him back into my life. Instead, I simply typed, "Thank you for saying that." Chapter 2. The Confession. One night, as our messages drifted into more personal territory, Liam admitted something that caught me off guard. "You know, I wasn't always fair to you," he typed. "I said things I shouldn't have. I was a jerk." I stared at the words, my chest tightening. It was the closest he'd ever come to apologizing. "Why?" I finally replied. "Why were you like that?" His response came slowly, each message a fragment of the truth. "I guess I was insecure. I had this image to keep up, and I thought putting others down made me look better. It was stupid. I'm sorry." I didn't know what to say. His honesty disarmed me, and against all odds, I found myself forgiving him. The conversation didn't end there. It stretched on for hours, peeling back layers of our past, revisiting old wounds I thought had healed but apparently hadn't. He told me about the pressure he'd been under. His father, a former college football star, had drilled into him the importance of being untouchable. Weakness was unacceptable, and somewhere along the way, proving his strength had meant making others feel small. He wanted me to be perfect, Liam typed, and when I wasn't, I felt like I was letting him down. So I took it out on everyone else. I told him how his words had shaped me, how I had carried them long after high school ended. The things he had said, the way he had treated me, it had lingered in the back of my mind every time I entered a new space, met new people. Would they see me the way he once had? Would I always be that invisible kid in the hallways, the one not worth noticing until it was time to be ridiculed? Liam apologized again, but this time it felt different. He wasn't just saying it because he thought he should. He meant it. "I wish I could go back and change things," he said. "I wish I could have been better to you." "You're different now," I replied. "That's what matters." As the weeks went on, our relationship deepened. It wasn't just messages anymore. It was video calls late into the night, stolen moments of laughter and connection. He'd become someone I could confide in, someone who understood me in a way few people did. We talked about our dreams, our fears, the things we were too afraid to tell anyone else. And with each conversation, I felt myself letting go of the past, of the hurt he'd caused me. Then, one night, after an especially long conversation, he hesitated before typing something new. "I think about you a lot, you know?" My stomach twisted. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I think about you. About us. About how things might have been different." My heart pounded. There was no way I was reading that right. Liam Carter, my former bully, was admitting that he had regrets? That he wished things had gone another way? "What are you saying?" I typed, my fingers shaking slightly. There was a long pause before his reply came through. "I don't know. I think I pushed you away because I didn't know how to deal with what I felt." A lump formed in my throat. I had spent years convincing myself that Liam had only ever seen me as a target, someone to make him feel bigger, stronger. And now he was telling me that he had felt something else entirely? I wanted to ask more, to press him for details, but I was afraid of what he might say, afraid of what it might mean. Instead, I simply replied, "I don't know what to say to that." His next message came quickly. "You don't have to say anything. I just wanted you to know." That night, I lay awake long after our conversation had ended, staring at the ceiling. My mind raced through memories of high school, through the quiet moments when Liam's eyes had lingered on me a little too long, the times when his teasing had felt almost pointed. Had I misread everything? Or had I been right all along to think that there had always been something unspoken between us? Either way, there was no turning back now.